Joining me right now to discuss this, and Caitlin and Jake's great reporting, Shanlon Wu. He's a CNN legal analyst, former federal prosecutor. Nia-Malika Henderson is a CNN senior political reporter, and Norm Eisen is here, a CNN contributor and former White House ethics czar under President Obama. Shan, this was about getting dirt on Hillary Clinton, the meeting. The president now making no secret of it, making it maybe more explicit and clear than ever before. He said it before, but the timing of this statement, does this create new legal problems for the president and his family?
Absolutely. I mean, if I were advising him, I would say leave this alone, bury it in the basement, but he's like a moth drawn to flame. He just keeps on going at it. And so this tweet by itself, short tweet, opens up lots of issues. I mean, opens up the question, of course, most importantly for his son's criminal liability in terms of the wrongful statements he's made. And it creates much more interest on the Mueller team part to really want to get to the bottom of what did the president know and when did he know it. And really, they can only get those answers from talking to the president, either in a combination of direct written questions or getting him to sit down. So he really is just adding a lot of fuel to the fire.
And Nia, if the meeting was a nothing, why is the story still changing? Why is there still not a straight answer? Why do they continue to twist themselves into knots for over a year to say it wasn't about what it was about?
Yeah, that's the big question. That's the big question, obviously, Mueller has. That's the big question folks on the Hill had when they wanted to talk to Jared Kushner, wanted to talk to Donald Trump Jr. to figure out what this meeting was about, who knew what, when. And you have the president there on the one hand saying, oh, it was no big deal. Anyone would have taken this meeting. There was no collusion. But also saying he didn't have anything to do with it. He didn't know anything about it. So why is he trying to distance himself from something that he is also saying is routine? It also raises the question, well, if it was so routine, why wouldn't you want to bring in the candidate who wants to figure out if someone has dirt on an opponent? So he is, I think, opening himself up to a lot of additional questions, even as the Trump legal team essentially tries to say, oh, well, they don't really need to talk to Trump in person about this idea of obstruction of justice, that they can just have written questions, that there's no there. I mean, he is, I think, opening himself up to a lot of scrutiny and really, I think, making the case for Mueller that he is key to trying to figure out what happened with this meeting and what happened with this meeting beyond just the meeting. Was there any sort of further contact, any sort of further conspiracy to disseminate any of this information, because that's obviously what happened after this meeting. It also goes to this idea. You've had President Trump basically saying, oh, the Russians didn't help. The Russians really wanted Hillary Clinton to win. They're upset that I won. He said at his rally just recently. But here he is admitting that there was this meeting with the Russians where the Russians were trying to help his campaign.
And Norm, you've worked for an administration. You worked for President Obama. The fact that a lawyer for the President of the United States says that he got bad information when it comes to Jay Sekulow. Who would he have gotten that bad information from that he was so comfortable then going on TV and repeating?
Well, Kate, the bad information we now know originally stemmed from President Trump when he dictated that false cover-up statement. That kind of a statement, if it's found to be an intentional lie, can be part of a larger obstruction or conspiracy case, the statement dictated on the plane, and the fish rots from the head. Clearly, it had to have some involvement by President Trump, and that's the key problem here. If we can't believe President Trump that this was a meeting about Russian adoptions, then why do we believe him now when he says he didn't know about it, as he declared in his tweet? There's been so many lies from this president, thousands, according to the Washington Post, and they're accelerating. That's the reason that his lawyers do not want him to talk to Bob Mueller, because as soon as he opens his mouth about this or anything else, he's either going to commit perjury or he's going to confess to obstruction or conspiracy. So we're seeing it's spinning out of control.
Well, no, quite simply, no one knows. And that's why I keep saying, Shan, that my hair hurts on this. If it was nothing, if they got nothing, if there's nothing wrong, then why has it taken, if there's still no clear answer of who knew what, when, and why? I mean, Donald Trump even disputes this, but the CNN reporting that he is really worried, as you're talking about, the legal exposure to his son, Don Jr., about this. Where is the legal exposure that he should be worried about?
Well, for Don Jr., it's because he's the only one that's testified under oath. So the more that comes up with his inconsistencies, the more problem. For example, did he tell his dad? Did his dad know about it? Did he realize he was meeting with Russian government officials, which seems blatantly obvious from the first email that says it's a Crown prosecutor in Russia? So he's got the most exposure on that. For the president, I mean, it would be a novel prosecution theory to go with obstructions just based on tweets. But I think, as Norm pointed out, the president's just making more trouble for himself with the tweets, and the tweets can set the foundation for him being questioned and making false statements under oath or during an interview testimony. So even if they can't prosecute him on obstruction based on the tweets really create a very dangerous atmosphere for him.
Norm, let's go back to the basics. President Trump says that what was done in taking the meeting to get dirt was totally legal and done all the time in politics. Is that the case?
Kate, I was a lawyer for the Obama campaign, the Obama transition, and the Obama White House. And I can tell you, we didn't have a single contact with a hostile foreign adversary to offer dirt on John McCain. If we had, we wouldn't have replied, as Don Jr. did. If it is what you say, I love it. Our reply would have been, call the FBI. And this is not normal. I've written about the potential crimes that come in under the heading of collusion, including conspiracy, an agreement to attack the United States. There were more than 80 contacts, according to my count, between the Trump campaign and Russia. And if those contacts, we know Bob Mueller, I've worked with him and against him for a quarter of a century. We know that if Bob Mueller believes that there was a Trump campaign participation in a conspiracy to attack a United States election, he's already charged dozens of Russian individuals and companies with that. If he believes the Trump campaign participated at the Trump Tower meeting or in any of these 80-plus contacts, he's going to charge somebody. And I agree with Shan. Don Jr. is the most likely targets, among the most likely targets, and we have a clue. Mueller hasn't yet talked to him. He's saving him for last. That's a sign that he may be charged.
If there's one constant in the inconsistencies and all of it, the one thing is that the president says that he didn't know anything about the meeting, didn't know anything about the meeting in advance. That's the one constant there is, which I find fascinating, and we'll continue to follow it, I guess is all we can say. Shan, Nia, thanks so much. Norm, great to see you. Thank you. I really appreciate you guys coming in.
Thanks, Kate.